In the last 5, 6 years, the mega trends such as electrification, connected vehicles, and shared mobility have caused a lot of entrepreneurs, or you can say a lot of startup, to come up and explore their own destiny in this mobility space. If you are one of them who want to be part of this startup ecosystem, or you also want to start off with some kind of venture in this new changed mobility space, then this is a program that gives you all 360 view of how to start a startup in mobility space. How do you venture into it? How do you get into in terms of getting funding, and what are the area, looking at your skills and available resources, what are the area you should explore. Today at the Startup Adda, a station for innovation, we bring to you a startup that is focusing on self drive and and also in terms of subscription of vehicles. These are the two business area that this startup is trying to deal with, or trying to scale their business up. I'm Nabil Khan, editor ET Auto, and the guest for this session is obviously the founder of Miles, Sakshi Vij. Thank you, Sakshi, for taking out time and joining ET Auto Startup Adda. Let me also tell you today, my friend Ashim Sharma is going to be the expert, or he will be supporting me in terms of evaluating and understanding this business area, how is it shaping. Ashim, all you know, is the partner at Nomura Research, a leading research firm. Thank you, Ashim, for joining in. I know you had been suffering from COVID, but still you took out time and joined this. Before we get into the discussion,
Thank you.
Shakshi, I know you have you already have a company. Rajiv ji runs Cars on Rent. You have been incubated in that area, and you have prior experience in the shared mobility space. Now, that was a chauffeur-driven shared mobility. Now you are trying to build a market for self-drive and subscription models. That is also an interesting trend that is shaping up around the world. But we see so far in India, it has not really taken off so well. We'll understand what is the reason and what kind of potential you see now, and how differently are you going to do that. So over to you. Please give us a sense. What's your thought? What's your idea? How are you trying to build this up?
Thank you, Nabil. Wonderful being here. Thank you for having me. Thank you, Ashim. I hope to get your opinion and feedback, during the course of this discussion as well. So, Nabil, as you rightly said, we in India we are so used to the idea of chauffeur drive. We have a driver. We have help for everything. The entire cab aggregation market has grown in such a big way over the last 5 to 7 years actually, with Uber and Ola and so many other offshoots of those entities that have come in. Back in 2013, while I was still working in the mobility space, and I myself was looking at corporate chauffeur drive, and I was actually within Cars on Rent. We were also, running at that point in time one of the largest radio taxi companies called Easy Cabs, and we were also, I was also handling the operating lease, one of the businesses that Cars on Rent was doing. What we really realized and what we understood was an existing gap in the market is nobody was really looking at cars without drivers. The mobility solutions that needed to be made there were not really getting considered. Even though while there were only about 200 to 300,000 chauffeur drive vehicles that were deployed in the market at that point in time, India, even in 2013 and now much more, was doing about 2 million units of new car sales, passenger car sales in the market. And something needed to be done there. I had also started in Singapore and Dubai, come back, try to fit in the idea of how will I be comfortable to have a car. I, of course, still don't own a car. I only subscribe. But I'll tell you why I do that. So I think the idea of subscription and self drive really came in from the fact that right from the time that a person today decides to own a vehicle to the time that they want to give up that vehicle, there are a large number of things that they have to go through. They have to discover the right vehicle, test drive it, go to the dealership, get financing, handle, all kinds of, loan payments, maintenance problems, insurance claims, accidents. You to manage all of these things together. And then at the end of term, you also need to dispose of the car so that you deal with a car, used car sales provider, or sell the car to somebody, etc. What this also meant was that once you've decided on the car that you want, you're stuck with it at least for the next 5 to 7 years. And now, thanks to at least some parts of India putting in regulations, you cannot keep a petrol or a diesel car for longer than 10 to 15 years. Um, However, there was a new and increasingly mobile population which was saying, while I want a vehicle for myself, but I may not necessarily want to keep it for 5 years. I may not necessarily want to keep it even for 2 years. So, what subscription really does, and that's what we introduced into the market, is enabling people to have access to a car from 6 months to 60 months for not having to worry about any kind of financing of the vehicle, but only worry about your monthly subscription rentals. Additionally, not having to worry about any kind of additional services that you have to acquire during the course of the you're using that vehicle. So all that you worry about is after you've decided on what is your monthly car budget, you just have to fuel the car and then drive it around. You don't have to worry about maintenance, insurance, any kind of tire, battery replacement, any of those things. You don't have to worry about all of that. You're just paying your subscription rental, and we take care of everything else. What we also did with this is we decided that how do we want to reach out to the customer? How do we want to educate people that they can now have a vehicle for themselves a lot more easily? That's when we decided that we needed to go and partner with vehicle manufacturers. So today we have partnerships with the likes of Maruti Suzuki, with Toyota Motors, with MG Motor, and we're in talks with a lot of other OEMs as well, where each of their dealerships today is able to offer to every customer a subscription of a car. What this is really doing is this is enabling people to have access to a car in a far more affordable, accessible, and convenient way. With a single application, you can now find whichever car you want. Incidentally, you can also find a new car, a used car, a privately registered car, a commercial vehicle, all kinds of entities, depending on whatever use case that a customer might have. And with keeping this in mind, what we're really saying is we are at a point across the globe actually where mobility is changing. No longer do we need to provide mobility as an asset to the end user. A car or any vehicle for that matter, the end user really wants to use it. That's why they're a user. They're not a buyer anymore. And mobility as a service needs to become the rule of the day as far as the future of mobility is concerned. And that's
Thank
really what we are trying to provide in the market. We're enabling people to be able to have as many options, to be able to, sort of change their car as many times as they want, and really not have to worry about the investment in the value of a car.
Well, point well taken, Sakshi. Of course, this has a lot of ground. If uh, other challenges that is seen by the people who go on to subscribe or those who want to go on a self-drive mode. We have seen a lot of cases coming up where complaints, in different types of complaints have come up. We'll discuss on all those, but before that, I would like to bring Ashim here. Ashim, I think subscription was one of the key point that you raised in your articles that you have been doing for ET Auto, especially in terms of nine game changers in the
Right.
mobility space over the years. So, can you give us a sense how subscription is taking off globally? In India, we have seen it's been 4 5 years since we are talking about subscription, but still we do not see any major breakthrough. And there are obvious reasons in terms of the monthly subscription cost is much higher. It's better to own than you subscribe the vehicle. Just want to understand initially from you, how do you see this business proposition for India, and how long will it take to take off, and what are the parameters, or you can say aspects, that needs a tweaking or work,
Right.
or when we can have this business scaling up in the country?
Sure. Thanks, Tabil. So, yeah, I think as you rightly said, globally, it's been a very well accepted model of subscriptions. And, precisely for some of the reasons that Sakshi was also mentioning, in terms of you want to have this choice of changing your vehicle often. You don't want to go into the hassle of, doing all the insurance, maintenance, all of that. And therefore, subscription does give you a good leeway in that space. In addition to that, it's also that I can get out of the asset ownership at any point in time that I want to. Contrasting it with India, I think first and foremost, there was a mindset thing which has been here. It's more driven by, can I own the asset? Then I rent out the asset, whether it is a house, whether it is a car. So that's been something that has carried over and to a large part of the population, because of which, subscription was slow to take off. The other reason, of course, being that we didn't have many companies of the likes of Miles also offering subscriptions. So that is there. I think what still remains to be answered is that, like Sakshi was mentioning, there are a few companies that are aware, or I would say a few car models that are available for subscription, but really the entire set is not available as of now. So that's one thing which people do look forward to. So if I'm going with Miles, do I have an option only amongst these three car OEMs and these set of cars, or can that extend to the entire market or not? That's one. The second thing is, and which is where I think a lot of bit of tweaking in this business model is needed. So today, if you see, Rev is giving subscription, Zoom Car is giving subscription, Miles is also giving subscription. How do we create some sort of a differentiation in our offerings? So one is a price differentiation, but I think increasingly now customers are looking at how a service differentiation can come in as part of this. Do I have something like schemes which enable me to swap this car at the end of 2 years, make an upgrade or things like that, which was also offered by many OEMs like the luxury car OEMs, for example. Can that kind of a thing also come through subscription even into the mass market segment? For example, that is one thing. The other is, what sort of value added services over and above insurance can come in? Does me getting into a subscription also give me like an entry into a club which has certain sets of privileges, customer experiences, which also come by virtue of me being a subscriber to this? I mean, I would put it akin to, say, I've subscribed to The Economist, and it's also giving me a bunch of other things apart from just the magazine. So can something come as a value add even when we talk about the car subscription? I think that's going to be the other thing which is going to be differentiating, especially when now more and more companies are offering the subscription services. So that's what in short, would be my overall take on it.
Right. I just want to understand, Shakshi, what is the average per month subscription for a car? Say, what is the lowest cost model that you have right now? Which car are you offering at the lowest per month subscription, and what is the average? And if you could tell me the buying price, because it is right to even compare it with the kind of EMI you are raising a month if you are buying a particular car. So just want to understand how lucrative is it going to be when we compare buying a car like 4 5 lakh rupees car. What would be the EMI for that? And what would be the subscription charges for that? And what am I getting extra in subscription, a service or whatever, as Ashim, just want to understand that how it can be lucrative, why people are still staying away despite having several models. Quite a few models have come in the subscription space, but we don't see many takers.
Yes, thank you. And very interesting insights from Hashim as well. I think so. A couple of things that you asked. First, of course, the way Miles presents its product, we believe that there is a subscription available for every budget. If you decide what is your monthly budget for a car, if you decide to spend 10,000 a month, we'll find a car for you. This is by virtue of the fact that we have new as well as used cars. And therefore, there's a much wider range of vehicles that are available. So,
So let's
in
talk about
fact,
the new one, Sakshi, new one. Let's talk about the new one. Like suppose I want to subscribe a Creta, Hyundai Creta, okay? So what would be the monthly subscription charges for
it,
this?
it'll typically cost you about between 25 to 30,000 rupees a month. But that will include not only the EMI, it will also include the the maintenance, insurance, registration, tire,
So
battery,
if I'm
everything that
driving the
is
car,
included.
I have some. Okay, so everything is taken care by Miles. Suppose there is a
Yes.
tweaking problem, servicing required, parts replacement, or anything, that will be handled by Miles. Except for
Even if
fuels,
you meet
the
with an
user
accident.
doesn't have any expenses. This is what you're saying,
Even if you
right?
meet with an accident, we will send somebody to pick up the car, get you to a safe space, and also apply for an insurance claim.
Okay,
So, yes, we
and
take
give
care
a
of everything.
replacement
The
car
idea
also.
is to give a single window to the customer.
Oh,
So,
that
that's
will include,
definitely
that's 25,000. Just want to
yes.
understand, Ashim, looking at the cost of this car, that would be around 12 to 15 lakh rupees, right? If I'm not wrong.
Right.
And then what would be the EMI for this car if suppose I want to own this? I think it won't be more than 15,000.
Yeah, roughly around that much. Yeah, 15 to
15,000.
16,
So I'm
15,
paying,
50, 16,000. Yeah.
yeah. So 15,000 I'm paying for this service and all. This is what I'm doing, right? Per month.
No, here Sakshi said 25,000, right?
25,000.
So
So
so at
10,000
least
I'm
at
paying.
10,000 you are paying extra for, yes, for the service and insurance and all of that. Yeah. Yeah, so I
Oh,
think clearly the value proposition comes to the same thing, that okay, it's 10,000 more here, but here then if I'm taking it on EMI, I need to finish the EMI, own the vehicle, or
then you
if I
have
sell it in.
residual value also.
Exactly, exactly. So I mean, it suits somebody who says, okay, no, I just want it for a short period of time, and then I want to probably give up, or I don't know, maybe I'll change country or something, or my liking for a car might change. So I'm taking it. So I'm getting a new car, but I'm getting it for a short period of time. I'm paying a premium against that. So it's more driven from the sort of, which is also a mega trend of renting things and using things rather than owning things, so that I am free otherwise to get out of it. So I think that's where somebody will want to give that extra 10,000. But otherwise, if you want to own it, yeah, and own the asset, and you want to keep it for long and all that, then definitely it turns out to be more expensive in subscription.
Shakshi, what is the time period you let these cars for? What is the minimum time period?
So you can rent a car for, you can subscribe to a car for as little as 6 months to 60 months, which is 5 years.
Okay.
I also, I completely agree with you, Ashin, when you say that, typically what a customer ends up doing and the choice that one makes is between ownership and flexibility. Today, most of the generation that's actually purchasing, and this is actually backed by also the used car life that we are getting. The average life of used cars that are being sold in the market is between 3 to 4 years, which means that people are owning cars and selling them off in shorter periods. The used car market itself is about 3.5 million in the country today. And therefore, there is a large section of people who are saying we actually don't want to own the car for longer than that period. We today actually see that the decision that a customer is making on our platform is a decision on flexibility, as also on not having to make that financing decision. You don't have to pay a down payment. You don't have to be committed to a certain period on that vehicle as well. So I think that's the change that the customer is also willing to make, along with the convenience of course, having subscription and not having to worry about multiple service providers that you'll have to otherwise deal with if you own a car for whatever length of period.
Sakshi, also, if you could tell us what is the number of subscribers right now, and how many years it's been you are into business of subscription? What is the total number of
So
subscribers right now?
So we launched subscription in 2018. That's where Miles became an entity in itself. We, at that point in time, started with only about, I think, 10 or 15 cars on our platform. We today, because we work with a large number of OEMs, we have over 2,000 cars on our platform. We're growing at a point where most of the customers are looking at cars for on an average of 24 to 36 months for subscription, which also then justifies the idea that even for a 3 year period, which could be the length of a loan, the customer is actually willing to take subscription by paying that extra amount as well.
So, self-drive versus subscription, which one is moving faster for you, and which one you think will see faster adoption in India? I'll hear from both of you, Ashim and Shakshi.
Ashim, you want to go first?
Sure. I mean, if you ask me, yes, I think self-drive certainly. I mean, we see much more of this coming, especially during COVID, because people want to go for that odd holiday to a nearby destination, and you want a different car for that experience, and possibly you don't want to take your own car because maybe it's a different kind of car, or you were just a bit nervous taking it in any case. So we are seeing a lot of that happen also. Self-drive coming in with people taking up cars because, say, somebody was relying more on public transport or shared mobility, and now they are seeing, because of infection fears, this, that, they want their own vehicle. So I think of the two, self-drive is increasing more, but maybe Sakshi would have the exact data of which in her business is driving it more.
Yes, so I think during the pandemic, for sure, as you rightly said, Ashim, the self-drive usage has gone up compared to the base at which it was. A lot of customers have opted for self-drive cars, either to venture out of town and have an independent car to themselves, or a lot of people who had given up the need to have a vehicle have sort of opted for shorter term, a couple of weeks, a couple of months sort of self drive as well. We, however, are also seeing an interesting trend as far as subscription is concerned, which is where I think the speed of growth of subscription is likely going to be much higher than even self drive. Uh, the reason behind that is two kinds of trends that are happening. One is that a lot of people today who had during the exponential growth of cab aggregation that happened, a lot of people gave up their second car in the house. That trend is now moving to people saying maybe we do need that second car, and therefore the need for a dedicated vehicle is going up. Having said that, the second car was always used for shorter durations, and it was used, much less by individuals. The second thing that's happening is there has been a lot of, topsy turvy happening as far as the disposable income of individuals is concerned, especially in the SME and the business segments, also on corporate sides, because of the pandemic and because of how it has affected business. So a lot of people are today not really interested in making a investment decision as far as a car is concerned. Therefore, subscription comes in as a handy product there. And if you see the overall car sales that are happening in the country today, they are coming back in really quickly. And OEMs today are very interested in introducing models like this to be able to make their sale conversion, their lead to sale conversion, a lot higher. So that's something that is a trend that we are seeing in a big way, and that's where we see the delta increase in subscription happening in a big way. So for us, most of our growth has actually happened post 2020. March 2020, that's where we signed in most of our OEMs. That's where most of the growth has also happened. And it is primarily because a lot of people are really coming in and saying, I'm okay taking this car for 6 months, but I just want it for myself. Self drive then will become a lot more expensive.
Right.
Thank you, Sakshi. Of course, 2000 is a good number, but India is a very, really, really big country. I just want to understand, Ashim, from you. Uh, Talking about the economics that I explained right now, if somebody takes for 2 years, you are paying that kind of, subscription fee, then it really, becomes something for people to consider whether I should own and then dispose of after 3 years. You can't really be held up. Look at the market situation that is becoming very dynamic. Used car market is also very dynamic and open. You can probably sell your car in 2 3 days.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
as quick as that. Everything is becoming, digital. Like, you just do electrical or electronics, electronic inspection. You send out some photographs, visual inspection happens, and your car is up for sale. It's on
Right.
bidding, and probably in few hours also you can sell. So it's really one of the biggest advantage of the subscription. That how much advantage it is, looking at the global market where subscription has picked up. And also, in terms of the subscription fee, how is it placed globally, and what are the new avenues or areas that is coming up that is complementing this business, so that the end cost to the user is coming down? Do you have any example to cite, Ashim?
Yes, certainly. So I think, as you rightly said, it's quite easy to sell also today because there are a lot of these used car platforms, etc. So really, the thing that used to be in your mind that, okay, I have this car now, I have to sell it. How will I sell it? Will it just keep lying at a dealer and all that? That's gone out. So, therefore, what we are seeing, and this also is being looked at globally, is subscription is being offered in subscription plus some value added services, as I was mentioning at the start of this session also. So, does
Also, the
subscription.
pricing share, the costing share, also, if you could focus on that, how is it priced there in the global market?
Right. So definitely we see that I mean, there are more flexible plans out there. That's one. The second is also, in terms of cost of capital being lowered. So that's also is factoring it. So yes, lower prices do exist than the ones that we see here. But I think the bigger thing that's happening is, so I am paying a slight premium. It's definitely giving me this flexibility that is there, but in addition to this flexibility, is it bringing about some other changes which otherwise were not possible? As I said, is it giving me an avenue into, the car becoming a device to enter into a marketplace, for example? So using connectivity features, so that is one thing that's being talked about. The other thing that we are also seeing, which I was talking about, and which has happened in the luxury segment, and probably in the mass market also, with subscription, is possible of upgrades. So say I buy a car in the 8 to 10 lakh rupee bracket, and now, at the end of 2 years, can I upgrade to something in the 12 to 15 lakh bracket from the same OEM? And is part of what I've already paid getting adjusted there? So those become avenues for customers. Okay, wow, this is really nice. Even if I was to sell and buy it wouldn't have been this easy. This is much easier for me to do. I can just, so I drove it for 2 years. Now I want an upgrade. I can easily go in and get that. So that's sort of the other thing that people are really looking forward to, being able to do. The third thing which we also see is, and which will take some more time actually to happen, is, so as you know, many OEMs have these exclusive clubs, etc., of people, especially some vehicles which are off-roading or more around the lifestyle part of it. That is also something, if say on the subscription side something of that sort could start for the set of people that are coming in. So it's all driving the same thing. Okay, I have subscribed to many other things. It could be a membership of a club, it could be membership of some other publication, this that it helps me enter into another lifestyle or set of experiences. If subscription can also bring that in, then I would be sort of be able to justify the premium to a larger extent. Otherwise what happens is, there are four companies offering subscription, there's also an OEM offering. I'm seeing who's offering the best price and I'm taking that. So that I think is also happening at the in the other parts of the globe, and that's something which could get adopted in India also fairly quickly.
Right. Shakshi, you want to add to this? Any thought in this direction? Also, with connectivity, a lot of allied business can come to the fore. Probably marketing or branding kind of stuff can come where you can offload some of the cost burden to the users. Is there some trend that in that direction or something happening?
Absolutely. So I completely agree with Ashim that I think the overall the global market, the way it's working as far as subscription is concerned, is they're adding a lot of value added services. India is unique in its own ways, and therefore we work to meet the needs of the customers in the Indian market. And there again, there are a few things that we've seen that have worked for us. One, like you said, Ashim, the idea that can you upgrade to the next level of car? This is something that we offer today, and we are actually seeing customers who come for a used car once and then they switch to a new car over after 6 months, and it's a seamless process. They can just do it within the app itself. The other thing is, and this is an overall phenomena that's happening in the Indian market, which is an influx of a large number of electric vehicles that are coming in. These electric vehicles are actually are fairly expensive in their initial ownership cost. Subscription, however, is completely making it justifiable to own an electric vehicle in the market. And therefore, today, over 40% of the cars that we have on our fleet are actually EVs. So people are coming in more and more to be able to subscribe EVs. Thereby, essentially for them, it is reduction of the upfront cost and reducing the risk of the residual value in the battery life. So that's something that's coming in as well. Other than that, I would be very happy to introduce all the mega luxury car clubs within the format of subscription itself, and I think the market for that is something that will likely happen once we also have some luxury partners offering subscription onto our platform. As a customer today, you can opt for all the services. The way we envision this is, can I give you a product where you choose what you want within the budget that you have? So you choose the services that you want in your car. And after that, you don't have to worry about anything. That's what
Sakshi,
subscription should
just
look like
quickly
for
want to
us.
understand one thing, Sakshi. What
Yes.
is the total interest you have received from users who want to have a subscription, subscribe car, or those who want to go for subscription module? In 2000 that you have put out, how many leads or how many interest did you get? And among that, 2000 were able to get this car. Just want to understand on
So,
an average.
on a monthly basis, today we get over 100,000 customers who put in their request for subscription. Those are the searches that we, have on our platform, and from that we are able to sell this. One of the other things, and to your point on what is it delivering in terms of passing on some of the costs. So one is, of course, yes, the marketing effort, because what we're actually delivering to an OEM or a car dealership today by partnering with them is that if today they are doing about 5 cars for every 100 leads that they're generating, with subscription they can add another 5. So we're actually able to double their overall conversion percentage of the number of leads that they're generating just by virtue of also offering subscription. The other thing that we want to do, and which is why a lot of the data that we collect from our system, and we have telematics devices that we install inside the vehicles to be able to get better information, is going forward to be able to offer better insurance products to the customers. To be able to give better predictive maintenance data to the OEMs so that we can control some of those costs and really able to, and that's how we'll also be able to reduce some of the costs. We of course also, in order to make sure that the price point is met and we come closer and closer to the customer expectations, we work with a lot of financial partners who then provide us preferential rates basis the kind of customer segments that we are able to provide them.
Sakshi, you said that your business really took off after pandemic, means 2020. That means it's been little over 2 years since. Before 2020, what was your number, and how many did you get after 2020?
So the reason that I say that our business took off after 2020 is because we set up our entity in 2018, and that's when we were developing our product. So we were ready by the end of 2019, and by virtue of that, we were able to, attract a large number of OEM and customer interest really. And I think the change in the mood and needs of the customer sort of helped us.
So currently, you are uh, about to give out about less than 100 vehicles on subscription a month. This is what you're saying. You
Sorry.
said, but and
Uh,
about 100,000 inquiries that you receive, right? So
Likely,
it's
yes,
yeah.
on an
So
average.
yeah. So just want to understand what are the reasons that they turn away from subscribing, or they are not converting into becoming a subscriber of these car. What are the top reasons that you face?
Well, I
Or
would
what are the
say
few
that,
things yet
so when I
you think
say,
you can do that will scale up your business?
well, yes, I think as far as the 100,000 number is concerned, like I mentioned, those are the searches that are coming up, which means that these are the people who are searching for subscription, trying to understand subscription. We also need to keep in mind that there are a lot of people don't know what subscription is. We are into a new market. We're taking up the task of educating the customer really there. Some of the things that we have seen work for us is one, tapping into the SME and the salaried customers because they are able to get significant taxation benefits as well when they subscribe to a vehicle. So that's a benefit that we are trying to offer to them, and they are able to take benefit of it.
Mm.
I think the other bit is to be able to provide a much wider range of vehicles on our platform, which is something that we do each time we introduce a new OEM. We are now also partnering with used car sales sites. We're also working with other channels where a customer is coming in to purchase a vehicle.
Yeah.
And I think overall, what will of course help us what will benefit much larger number of
First, if you could
customers.
highlight the biggest deterrent that you see when somebody says no, what is the reason? Why? What is the one or two, 3 points that they is the cost of subscription one of on the top, or what are the reasons that somebody turns away from this?
If a customer is coming in with the idea of taking a car on subscription, then the cost of subscription is usually not the deterrent. It will typically be the kind of vehicle that they want or the availability of those vehicles. That does become a deterrent. The cost of subscription also becomes a deterrent more when the customer directly compares this to the EMI that you pay for a car. But that's not what it is, right? You get a lot more than what you get in subscription versus when you pay the EMI of a vehicle. And therefore, we then take up the task of educating customers and really explaining that to them, the difference between
So,
financing a car and subscribing to a
how
vehicle.
do you see your business scaling up? What's your vision for the next few years, and how are you trying to do? How many you will be able to? Because you see the used car option, you look at that. There's a rapid growth there. Okay, there is an opportunity for you because there's not enough new car being sold right now. So the supply constraint is going to be there in the used car. That creates an opportunity in all that situation. You also said that the price is not a big deterrent, but you also said that at the same time when they compare with the EMI, that becomes a problem. That means obviously ends to the same price quotient. So just want to understand, going forward, do you see this doubling, tripling? How do you see the pace of growth? Do you think you will be able to do 100,000? How do you see the subscription market in India? Looking at all your competition, not only you, the other people trying to do the same thing. Just want to understand what is your vision. You're working in this space. How big this market can be? How much you can scale up this business in India?
So, Nabil, if I look at where we have reached over the last 2 years, we have had over a threefold growth in our numbers over the last 2 years. If I look at the next year itself, we believe that we should be able to get to at least 10,000 cars on our platform. Over the next 5 years' time, we believe that this is a business from our end. We should be able to tap into at least 200,000 vehicles on subscription through our platform. This is because of the uniqueness of our model, which works directly with OEMs and the sales touch points of all vehicle segments. Also, because we intend to introduce used cars as well on subscription. The way we envision it, we see that every person who is coming to own or use a vehicle should be able to find subscription as an option. Provided they have that as an option, there are close to now almost about 2.5 to 3 million cars in the new and a similar number in the used car, which is bought and sold in this country on an annual basis. If you really look at where the used car segment has grown, it is because they have acquired those assets. We are now creating usage of those assets by finding a more flexible way of access to customers. And therefore, I think that kind of growth will definitely happen.
Ashim, coming back to you with the same question, just want to understand currently, if you look at the used car versus new car, on every one new car, at least closer to two used cars are sold in India right now. Just want to understand in the next 5 years down the line, how do you see the subscription? Or even if you could give us some short term projection in the next 1 year, how many uh, subscription will be there on every car sold in India?
Okay, that's a tough one for me to give a number exactly on that, Nabil. But I think, because the base is low. So as Sakshi was saying, definitely double-digit growth will come in, at
No,
least for
I'm not
the
talking about growth because growth is not having any value right now because the volume is very less. Just let's
right.
talk about volume.
Yeah, I would say maybe at least, over the next 3 years or so, we would see between, about 15% sales of the market to about 20% happening through subscriptions. That would be the kind of number, we could look at going there.
So you are
I would
saying in how much time? On
in say
every
about the
four
next
new
three
cars,
three
one
years.
subscription will be.
Yeah, 3 years or so. I mean, that is kind of the number that we would be able to see, that at least about 15% of the sales that are happening through subscriptions. I'm talking of the new car sales. Used car could take a very different trajectory. Right. Just one more thing to add, and just touching upon the point that Sakshi was mentioning about data. I think that's where is where a lot of actually monetization of this data and the real value can also be drawn in, because once you have all of these customers there using the vehicles and you are able to get the usage data, I think that's where a lot of value can be extracted, whether it's in terms of getting better insurance, getting better maintenance, also educating the customer around, safer driving, being used by infrastructure providers for redesign of
But
roads, etc.
there's a big contention in data. Who owns the data? That's a very important
Exactly. So
aspect.
one is who owns the data. Second is, I think, and I've used some of the these services in the self-drive vehicles also. Right now, I think the algorithms also need a lot of fine tuning. For example, it gives you a big demerit score in driving because you braked hard in Delhi, but that was because suddenly the right turned red or a biker cut in front of you, so you had to brake. But if that braking was happening at 25 kilometers per hour, I don't think that is risky driving, so to say. But it keeps on giving you demerit scores. So I think some of that fine tuning of these algorithms as per the Indian drive cycle, Indian traffic conditions, all of that, if that happens, I think that's where a lot of value can be driven. Now, who owns this data? I think on your subscription cars, especially the second-hand vehicles or where you are selling directly, maybe you would have some amount of ownership of that data because you are using it for the insurance packages, for the maintenance packages. And then if this can be monetized, I think the savings from this can be flowed back to the customer in terms of better rates for subscriptions. And that's where also there'll be sort of self-reinforcing thing happening on the subscription
So,
model, that
of course,
yeah.
we have seen OEMs have been exerting their claim on the data, whosoever be the user, and that is also being questioned. So we
Correct.
really don't know so far. In an ideal situation, what if I may be politically right, then it is ending up with the user, whosoever is
Correct.
driving, looking at the
Yes.
data privacy and all, that guy is owning that. Are you going to give an advantage to the owner of the data, actual owner, that is so far in any discussion is landing with the user?
Correct, correct, correct. So I'm saying more from the app that the user is
Yeah.
using, the data that's coming in, it finally goes to the user as telling him how to get a better mileage out of the car. If it's an electric vehicle, how to get a better range out of that car, how to be able to ensure, even other things like, frequent braking affects your motor activities, gets you more tired, gets the co-passengers more tired. So, even tips and tricks around that so as to be able to make a chauffeur-driven car also more comfortable, or, for your co-passengers, a more comfortable drive. I think those kind of things, if and that needs, significant amount of analytics on this data, that could become value-added stuff for the customers as well.
So, Sakshi, I just want to understand what is really inspiring you to take this business model ahead, and what's your plan? How do you want to reach there? Are you going to get more funding, or you want to be bootstrapped, or what's your plan? And what are the two, three baskets where you're trying to put your eggs so that it's really manifolds into where you want to see? Because we see the plethora of challenges that we have mentioned or we have discussed. You also pointed out, Ashim also pointed out, and we also see on the grounds how it is. How do you see things changing, and where do you see, suppose somebody who want to rely into this message, what would be your statement to this?
So let me begin from the beginning. I think what's keeping me going into this business and what's inspiring me is the fact that there is a significantly large ownership market that exists, and I'd like to be the alternative to vehicle loans. I'd like to be able to tell people that you don't really need to just take the loan; you can take the entire service altogether. In terms of doubling down on the areas that I'm really bullish about, I think one, definitely there's a lot happening in the EV segment, and subscription makes perfect sense for EVs. We are seeing that in the overall requests that we are getting from customers. We are seeing that in the conversions that we are doing. And electric vehicles are, getting a huge push in various segments from the policymakers as well in this country. I think the second bit that's happening is a significant push also on how we're able to provide used vehicles on subscription as well. The used car segment is, like you mentioned, even bigger than the new car segment in this country today. And therefore, can we make ownership of used cars even more flexible? And that's something that we're doing. I think the third bit that will be very significant for us will be to look at other vehicle segments, which is something that we're quite interested in going forward, is to understand whether we can provide last mile delivery vehicles on subscription to the drivers. Can we enable buses on subscriptions? Can we enable bikes on subscriptions? All of those. So that's a category that we would like to definitely explore and tap into.
Expand.
So yeah, I think those are the things. All of this will require us to be able to expand rapidly and to be able to take very aggressive decisions. And therefore, we're obviously, while we have been invested by our existing investors and angels as of now, we would definitely be raising funds going forward and fuel up all of this growth.
So how much you have invested so far? How much you have raised so far? And how much do you look forward to further?
So we are since we continue to be a privately held entity, we don't really disclose all data on investments. But as an entity, while within Cars on Rent and later, there is close to about 10 to 11 million dollars that has been invested into Miles as a brand. And we believe that over the next 12 to 18 months, we should be able to raise um, a certain number of that, uh, a certain multiple of that
Okay.
from private equity and strategic funds as well.
Shakshi, you mentioned about electric vehicle. The scene in electric vehicle is completely different. When you talk about 3 years of subscription, you have one of the costliest asset of the vehicle that is worn out already, the battery. That costs about 50-60% of the total vehicle cost. In such a scenario, how will you structure your cost for subscription of electric vehicle? Is it going to be even further higher than the ICE counterparts?
Well, no, actually, when it comes to electric vehicles, the cost of the battery and the life of the battery are, yes, considered very differently. The
But you
cost of
get
the battery,
advantage in service.
well, yes, you definitely get advantage in service, but you also, while the cost of the battery forms 50% of the cost of the vehicle itself, the life of the battery is close to 15 years today. And also, most OEMs are coming up with replacement guarantees as well, guarantees and warranties on the vehicle itself. And therefore, electric vehicles can be owned for a much longer period of time as well if the customer so wants. Again, like I said, if you were to take a Tata Tigor on subscription today, which is a 14 lakh rupee vehicle at the top end model, suddenly the decision from a 14 lakh rupee becomes a 40,000 rupee a month decision. And that in itself makes a huge difference when the customer really goes about using this vehicle. And even within that, if you were to drive this vehicle for, say, 1,000 kilometers a month, because this is an electric vehicle and because the charging infrastructure would be provided to you, you don't even have the fuel cost, or at least the fuel cost would be 1 rupee a kilometer, which is 1,000 rupees extra, as against 8 times of that amount.
Thank you. Sakshi, before I close the session, I would invite Ashim. If you have any question for Sakshi, then you can go ahead.
No, I think we covered it in more or less detail. Just one thing. So actually, amongst your competitors, how do you differentiate yourself, say, against a Rev or a Zoom car? I mean, what do you think is different about Miles, whether I'm taking a self-drive or I'm taking a subscription as against some of the others that are there in the marketplace?
Um, so I think the way we would like to differentiate, and that is the basic philosophy on which Myles was also built, is while everybody is trying to sell subscription and really disrupt the market, we want to enable the market. And the way we want to enable the market is by working with the stakeholders, by working with all, the ecosystem players in the market. The way we work is as a platform. We don't just work as a service provider. Miles is a platform that can integrate just as easily with a car manufacturer as they can with an insurance company and a finance company. And all of these ecosystem players can come together and sell all of their services for us to be able to bring a solution for the customer. So there is a benefit for everyone. And we're really trying to bring all of these ecosystem players together to be able to, really meet some of those challenges of pricing, of better insurance products, much better data, and have a better enablement of the system itself. So I think, yeah, that's really the differentiator that we want to play with in the market, which is why for us the focus is to work with ecosystems, to work with OEMs, to work with insurance companies, all of that.
Got it.
Great,
Got it. Thank
Sakshi.
you.
Superb, sounds great. Ashim, before we conclude this session, just want to hear from you. When we talk about self-drive or we talk about car subscription or automobile, it's good to hear that Sakshi is looking at expanding her business model from not just limiting to passenger vehicle, but going beyond to last mile connectivity with two-wheeler. That will be really exciting to see, and I wish you all the very best. Ashim, your thoughts in terms of scalability of this business model, in terms of applicability in the markets like India, looking at the consumer, Indian car buyers. How do you see this business proposition in India? How will you rate on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest in terms of scalability, in terms of business viability in India?
So certainly, Nabil, especially on the segments that Sakshi spoke about, which is the commercial segment, wherein we do see, there will be entrepreneurs out there or people out there who want to, probably cannot own a vehicle, but at the same time are hardworking, would want to take one like this on subscription and, generate profits for themselves as well as be able to pay back for this subscription. I think the scalability of that is going to be immense. Because today we do see one of the reasons that is limiting a large number of people to get into that space is the price of the asset is very high. And when we get into, say, electrified assets, it's even a bigger barrier in terms of the initial purchase cost and things like that. So I think the scalability there, especially on the commercial segment of this, to my mind, would be upwards of 7.5, 8. If applied with all the ecosystem enablers, the way Sakshi said, of having the data getting rightly processed, ensuring there's enough telematic support, ensuring there is track and trace, which, so in other words, so that all the stakeholders in this business model are taken care of. I think the scalability, especially in the commercial segment, is going to be significant.
Thank you so much, Sakshi. Thank you so much, Ashim, for joining ET Auto's Startup Adda, a station for innovation. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching this show. Stay tuned to ET Auto for more news, update, and analysis on mobility and automotive industry. See you next week with another founder and an expert. Thank you so much. Stay safe. Take care.